Okay, so I'm just going to start again. So who is Miss Ugochi Nnodi? Miss Ugochi Nnodi is a notable capital market expert who has made a mark in the industry as the managing director of Nova Asset Management Limited and as the pioneer managing director of Future View Asset Management Limited. She's presently the managing director of Capital Field Asset Management in Lagos, Nigeria. She holds a BSc in chemical engineering and a PhD in business management from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Ugochi is an associate for people who are from OAU, right? Okay. Ugochi is an associate of both the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, CIS, and the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments, UK. She's also an authorized dealing clerk of both the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Commodity Exchange. Ugochi has diverse experience in asset management, research and marketing, and she has developed expertise in the packaging of capital markets, bond issues, money market operations, project management, financial advisory services, training, and international business advisory. She also holds associate membership. If you're muted, please just mute yourself. She also holds associate membership of NIM, CIPN, and CBAN with a certificate in strategic management from Kessingen University, USA. So if we don't mind, let's virtually, and if you can also unmute, you can just clap your hands as we welcome Ugochi, Miss Ugochi Nnodi, as she starts a session with us.
Thank you.
See you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Hello, Grace. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We're super glad to have you here too.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so do I dive in to my presentation?
Yes,
okay.
You can.
So let me share my screen right now. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen, everyone? Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So just try to push this up. Okay, so that we can. Okay, so good evening, everyone. It's great to be here in the midst of the BFM community. It's truly a pleasure to be part of this program. Okay, so I'll be talking on personal finance, mastering money management for wealth generation and financial success. So there'll be practical tips on how to manage how to manage our funds and career advice, and of course some form of financial education to help us understand the financial markets in our various areas. I understand there are people tuning in from different parts of the world. Okay, so Okay, so the table of contents. First of all, we'll be talking about some insights on personal finance, and then dive into wealth, and before we get to the conclusion. Okay, so section 1 is insights on personal finance. Okay, so what's the definition of personal finance? Some school of thoughts describe personal finance as a term used to cover the management of your funds. Sorry, this is my screen. Let me shift it. Okay. All right. So management of funds, including savings and investing. It's also essential to budgeting. It also entails budgeting, banking, mortgages, investments, taxes, retirement planning, and estate planning. So it covers everything about your finances from start to finish, including retirement planning, how you manage funds, what we do with our money, financial discipline, and the whole lot. Okay, so we'll just go in and talk about the scriptures on financial empowerment, because I know this is a Christian gathering. So it's good for us to know that God, the Bible makes provision for us to have financial empowerment, and also for women to also be financially empowered. Okay, so a very, very popular scripture here is Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18. That says that thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he has sworn unto our fathers, unto thy fathers. Okay. And furthermore, we have Romans chapter 8, verse 32 that says, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, shall he not also, along with him, graciously give up, has a plan for our prosperity. But we can focus mainly on Proverbs 31, which is a very popular scripture from verse 10 to 31 that talks about the virtuous woman, a woman that is full of wisdom and virtue, industrious and investment savvy. Okay. And the fact that she considers a field and buys it, supports her husband and her children, okay, shows that it's good to make profitable investments, and not just anybody, but even women are expected to have some form of financial empowerment to make their contribution to the family. Okay, so we'll be looking at keys to financial success. So number one, here is honoring God with your substance. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9, that we should honor the Lord with our substance and with the first fruits of all our increase. Then our barns will be filled with plenty and our vats will be bursting with wine. Okay, so this is not just about sowing seed or giving God what is due to him. It's about giving priority to God, putting our whole trust in him. Our Lord Jesus Christ said in Mark chapter 12, verse 17, that we should give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give unto God what belongs to God. So we have to give God what is due to him. As the Bible says, we should bring the tithes into his storehouse. So we need to give God, pay our dues, give God what belongs to him, and he will protect what you have. Okay, so we'll also see that Solomon gave 1,000 burnt offerings. That's in the book of Kings chapter 3, the 2nd Kings chapter 3, verse 4 to 28. Sorry, I didn't put the second there. Okay, so when he gave and peace in his kingdom. So it's very key for us to honor God with what we have and to advance the kingdom of God with our substance. Okay. Then secondly, we need to work with our hands. Of course, speaking figuratively, we need to engage in meaningful employment, engage in something that produces, that adds value, that will generate income, okay, to solve problems that will generate income, okay. And the book of Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23 talks about that. And then 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 35 makes reference to righteousness, for us to add add to our righteousness diligence, okay. So it's not just enough to be righteous, we also have to be diligent. And diligence entails hard work, industriousness, and economic empowerment efforts. Okay, so let's not overflog that. We'll go on to talk about keys to financial success with a specific focus on effective money management. Okay, so first of all, you have to do a personal assessment, evaluate your current financial status to know what your personal finance health is. So we'll be going through some of those things as we move further along in the presentation. Okay, then we'll also need to set financial goals. We need to plan budgets, engage in income generating activities, and just like setting up business or engaging in paid employment or self-employment. Okay, and then we also have to ensure financial discipline to because you have to start when you're young, to start saving, to start planning, to start putting money away for the rainy day, so that when the time comes that you're not able to work or engage in some form of employment to get money, your money will work for you because you've made those investments ahead of time. Okay. Then, of course, we need to have some financial education to understand some basic knowledge about what's happening in the economy, in the climes where we are, in our various countries where we live in. Okay, so we're going to be looking at some of those things. Okay, we're going to be looking at some of the financial market indices, the macroeconomic variables along the line, but I'm not going to dwell too much on that. It's just to give us an idea of the kind of things we should look out for in the economy. Okay, and then also, finally, we'll be looking at wealth creation, savings and investments. Okay, if we've read, I'm sure many of us have read The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay, and one of the advice that was given in that book is that you should pay yourself after you have paid all your obligations, your dues, what you're paying to God, your bills, your taxes. Then you should pay yourself through savings and investment. Put away some money. That is your own payment for your own benefits. Okay, and this ultimately leads to diversification of income. You now generate multiple streams of income through the various investments that you make, and build wealth and grow wealth. Okay, but we'll be talking about those issues much later. Okay, and also making your money work for you. We'll be explaining that also. Okay, so first of all, let's take the personal finance health assessments. So I'll be going through these statements one after the other, and you can also take your pen and paper and try to answer some of the questions, and then we'll look at the verdict later. So number one is your present what is your present financial condition or net worth? Do you know what you're worth right now? Okay. Then are you satisfied with your present condition? Okay. To get your net worth, you look at your income, your expenses, your assets, your liabilities, your cash flow. What's that determine what exactly am I worth at this point? So are you satisfied with that? Your present financial condition. Are you aware of the simple ways to enhance your net worth? Okay. Do you have enough savings to handle the next 6 months of normal living expenses, assuming that you are unable to work for some reason or get, some paid employment within the next 6 months? Will you be able to survive on what you have put away? Okay. Do you save money on a regular basis? Do you have well-defined personal financial goals? Do you keep records of your monthly income and expenditure? And do you reconcile your bank statements monthly to manage what you do, your expenses? Okay. And do you spend less than you earn, or you spend more than you earn? Okay. You're constantly in debt, or you always have some leftover funds that you've saved, at the end of the month or at the end of the period that you receive your income? Are you successful at managing your household budgets? Have you been able to keep it, constant? Okay, plan it and follow what's the budget that you've laid down. Do you avoid major credit purchasing? Okay, I know some of us are Nigerians, so most of us are Nigerians. So a lot of us would understand, when people are doing parties and things like that, you want to buy the asoebi, the uniform, sometimes you can't afford that, and then you now have to buy on credit when you don't have the funds and you can't afford it. Sometimes it's better to, forget about those things and focus on your financial, health. Okay. So do you take advantage of all the savings and investment programs provided by the institution or organization that you work for? Do you have any investments that help to reduce your taxable income? Okay. Do you diversify your investments? When we're talking about multiple streams of income, we need to diversify our investments. Okay. Are you satisfied with the return on your investments? Okay. So that's why we have to know a little about the economy. What is the inflation rate? What returns am I getting for the investments that I'm making? Is it outperforming the inflation and other economic indices? How does that affect my investments and all that? Okay. Do you have sufficient life insurance coverage? Do you have a plan for your children's education? Are you putting away money for their future education and things like that? Do you own your own house? Do you have a retirement plan? Okay. Are you there's some kind of mandatory deductions done from salaries, or you voluntarily put away those funds with the pension commission? That's in Nigeria, but I'm sure that's available in other countries as well, where you save up money regularly. It's deducted at source, and at the end of the day, you have access to it at different milestones. Perhaps when you turn 50, you can access some parts of that fund, and then it keeps being paid to you monthly until, as long as you're still alive, you keep getting your pension. Okay. So have you prepared a will? Most people don't like to talk about wills, but it's important to, prepare your will, to look at your succession plan and all that as part of your financial plan. Okay, so that you can also transfer the wealth that you have generated, the wealth that you have accumulated and created, okay, to the next generation. Are you satisfied with the contribution that you have made to the world? Okay, as Miles Monroe wrote in his book, or in some of his messages that we listened to, okay, what he said is, I want to die empty, because the graveyard is full of dreams that were never realized, things that were never done, people that couldn't achieve everything that they wanted to achieve in life. So you should aspire. We all should aspire to ensure that when we die, we're dying empty. We do all we can to achieve our God-given purpose. Okay. All right. So let's move on. The verdicts for this now, if your answers were mostly in the affirmative, yes, okay, then that means that you're on the right path. You're already taking good financial decisions, okay? And then, but if your answers are mostly in the negative, then, that's a gradual, slope down to bankruptcy. And that means you're already having some financial challenges, okay? However, all hope is not lost, okay? You can always start all over, rejig your financial plan, okay? And with some of the tips we're going to give today, you'll see that you can bounce back and ensure that you're back on the road to financial health and wealth creation and wealth management. Okay, so financial goal setting and financial discipline is one of the things that we need to employ, okay, to ensure that we maintain our financial plan, okay? We set our financial goals, and then we discipline ourselves not to deviate from that, to ensure that we're able to meet whatever obligations that we have, and to have a comfortable life, now when we're still young, and even after we retire. Okay, so we'll run through this. These are very practical tips, I got from one of my mentors, and I'll just read them out. Okay, so you should have financial goals. It makes you to be financially focused and avoid financial waste. So planning is important, okay? Then discipline yourself to save every month, no matter how small. Make sure you save, okay? Spend money or time only if it is a need in your life and urgent. Note the two conditions, not on wants or wishes, okay? But if it is a need or if it is urgent, okay? So have weekly budgets, okay? You can have like, money set aside. This is my limit for the week, okay? If I exceed this limit, no more spending, okay? So that helps to regulate our expenses. Then use lower denominations, okay, of your currency, okay? If you waste money a lot, so that you're not tempted to give out too much or spend, okay? So then use lower denomination, budget for helping people and be strict about it. Give small amounts to those who come for help regularly. There are people that always come to you, please, help me out and all that. So make sure you can help, but don't give too much so that when they come the next time, you'll have something to give them. Okay. But for those who come once in a blue moon, you can give them something reasonable because at least they are not always coming to ask for help. Okay. Then have week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4 envelopes. Okay. You see? So for every week of the month, you set aside, what you're going to spend for each of those weeks and try to stick to it. Okay. Save any money that comes outside your regular income after your tithe. So when you receive your normal income, you pay your tithe. Okay. And then you apportion all the funds for the different bills that you have, your savings, your investments. But sometimes you get money. People, we call it dash in Nigeria. Okay, so people give you money, or you get some kind of extraordinary income. Okay, don't spend it. Put it away. Okay, and ensure that you invest it. Okay. Then invest in assets and not liabilities. Assets increase in value and price yearly. Okay. So some people give an example like the car. A car looks like an asset, but really it's a liability. Yes, it's good to drive around with and all that. So, but just for practical purposes, you don't have to buy an unnecessarily expensive car. You can buy something that is practical and enough to take you to where you want to go to. Okay, because the value depreciates over time. At some point, after like 4 or 5 years, the book value, for those who keep such assets, it's no longer valuable, and you keep spending money on it. Okay, but cars are good. Okay, but just let it be within your economic, level. Okay, so then don't borrow money to do parties, okay, or do impulsive buying. Don't avoid impulse expenses, okay? Then don't borrow money to buy liabilities. We've talked about liabilities reducing the value in value every year. Okay, so it's better to borrow money to invest in a business. So until you save, you cannot invest. Okay, so it is when you save money that you use the funds that you've saved to invest. Okay, so you need to save no matter how small it is, no matter how small your income is. If people could survive, because I remember during the COVID-19, okay, people had to take cuts, salary cuts. There was a whole, a lot of change, but we survived. Okay, so if we could survive under those circumstances, during that period, adjusting to what we call the new normal, then it's possible to save and discipline oneself to align with those with the goals and the budgets that you have set out. Okay, so every evening, write down how you spent your money. It reveals where your money goes. Okay, so that's part of being diligent. Really, monitoring your expenses. Okay, then you can make adjustments. Then have financial goals or targets and work towards it. Okay, I'm saving up money for this. I want to achieve this. Then keep doing that. And then you achieve those milestones, you move on to the next project. So it gives you a sense of satisfaction. If you cannot save, when you're earning 20,000, whether it is $20,000, 20,000 naira, 20,000 euros, 20,000, whatever currency you use in your country, then you cannot save when you're earning much more than that. If you're earning triple or quadruple that amount, the fact that you have not developed a culture of saving and investing, it would be difficult. Okay, so it's all about sacrifice. Then be business minded, keep records. Do not take any product or service free from your business. So if you're running a business, don't just, plunder the place just because it belongs to you. Make sure you pay for it. Okay, whatever you take, so that you're giving good account. That's proper stewardship. Okay. Then also the price of credit purchases should be higher than cash purchases from your business. Okay, so if anybody's buying on credit, then they should pay a little more. Okay, because it's almost like you're loaning them money. Okay, so I believe these tips really go a long way to help each and every one of us. Like I said, I got it from a mentor, and it's something that I'm also applying to my life. Okay, then also we'll continue. Put your money to work for you. Okay, it's a continuation of the tips. Diversify your income lines. We're going to look at some of the different kinds of investments that we can make to diversify our income lines. Monitor what comes in as income. Okay. Monitor what goes out as expenses as well. Okay, go the extra mile to work and earn your own income. Engage in meaningful employment. Okay, there's dignity in labor. And do what you need to do to ensure that you earn some income. Then go extra miles in your job function. Avoid eye service and commit to excellence. Save money from lifestyle adjustments or changes. Okay, you can cut out certain luxuries from your life and ensure that you save those funds. That is part of financial discipline. Okay, sell off non-performing assets and unused ones, and then invest those funds in income generating investments. Okay, then divert every extra income to savings and investments. We've talked about that in another form earlier. Then change jobs for higher pay and increase your saving power. Okay, we're going to talk about how to stay relevant in your career for career people who are job people who have a career. That's as in you're working for an organization or for people that are employed by an organization. Then fast track your debt repayments as much as possible. Pay off all your debts or have a repayment plan and make sure you keep to it and clear off whatever the debts are. Okay. Then increase your skills to enhance your earning power. Take your holidays during off seasons to make it cheaper. Okay. For those of you who travel a lot across the seas. Okay. Then compare prices before any transaction involving paying out money. Okay, so that you're sure that you're getting the cheapest price. Like Mike Murdoch would say, don't pay for anything you can get for free. So if you can get something free, why pay for it? Then if you can get something cheaper in this particular store, why would you go to an more expensive place to get it? Okay, then reduce your monthly budget to enhance savings. Okay, then review your investment plans periodically. Assess your portfolio, look at your investments, and see how you're making progress so that you can readjust and then move forward. Okay, so I think we're done with that. So we're now going to section 2. Okay, so this is a bit technical, could be a bit boring, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. This is about global economic analysis. So we've taken some of the major economies in the different continents. So since Nigeria is the giant of Africa, so we've Nigeria, we're analyzing the economic situation in Nigeria. Okay, we're looking at the United States for North America, That covers the two, North and South America. Then the United Kingdom, okay, is the country that we're looking at for Europe, and China for Asia. Okay, so the summary here is that Nigeria's economy exhibited a mixed performance marked by a significant drop in inflation, stable monetary policy, and modest improvements in capital markets indicators. That's in this first quarter, in the first quarter of the year. Because, okay, we'll be looking at that, but the inflation rate came down significantly from what it was in December because the consumer price index was rebased, okay, from the previous years that were used to more recent realistic indices, okay? So even though the inflation rate came down, the prices are not necessarily did not necessarily come down, but it was good, okay? So that we're having a more realistic figure for inflation. Okay, then the US economy reflected a mix of macroeconomic stability and emerging pressures. We'll be looking at that just for us to get some familiarity with those things. Then the United Kingdom economy showed signs of cautious recovery, underpinned by stronger GDP growth and improved investor confidence. Okay, then China's economic performance in the first quarter of 2025 revealed growing macroeconomic strain as deflationary pressures deepened, GDP growth slowed, and external tensions, particularly the renewed US-China trade war, cast a long shadow over the country's growth trajectory. So it's just good to know what's happening in your country, to have an idea of what the economy is saying, what the inflation is, just to help. So that also helps you make investments. So if you look at the inflation rates in your country, okay, and then you're making an investment, your aim is to ensure that your returns would at least match or exceed the inflation rates, or at least come close to it, so that you can make some meaningful returns, okay? And then, okay, so let's look at Nigerian economic analysis. The inflation rates in Nigeria, okay, recorded a sharp decline, as I mentioned earlier, from 34.6 in December 2024 to 24.23 in April 2025, okay? So that's a significant drop. And like I've explained, the consumer price index was, the figures, okay, where it was rebased, okay, from the previous years to more recent and realistic benchmark year, for capturing those figures. Okay, then the monetary policy rates has remained at 27.5, keeping borrowing costs at historic highs in a bid to sustain disinflation and stabilize the naira. Okay, so the monetary policy rate is the rate at which the other rates are benchmarked, the lending rates, and also the deposit rates, okay, that the banks give you. They are benchmarked on this, but we won't go into too much detail, but you might want to find out, when the CBN has their monetary policy meetings, okay, they set out those parameters, the CRR, the liquidity ratio and things like that. And then they give this, the MPR. So you have the asymmetric corridor, where you lend, plus or minus, and where you also, the banks can lend or place funds at certain rates that are benchmarked on this. Okay, so the foreign exchange, the Naira dropped, okay, in value against the dollar, okay, and then the bond markets index rose, okay. Interest rates, that shows that there's a strong demand for government securities and elevated interest rates. Then, of course, the stock markets, okay, which is a major indicator of what's happening. So the stock markets usually the performance is inverse to what is happening in the money market. So if the money market is going up, the stock market sometimes, it goes down. So, it has that inverse relationship. Then here we see that the stock exchange appreciated by 2.79, reaching 105.8 basis points. Okay, up from 102 in the previous period. The stock market's performance was bolstered by improved earnings reports from banking and consumer goods sectors, okay, as well as rebalancing by institutional investors seeking shelter from FX volatility and inflation-linked asset erosion. Okay, crude oil prices have traded at lower rates. External reserves have declined, and government debts, has increased. The government debt reported in US dollar terms decreased by a certain percentage, 2.94, which is a good thing. But then, we still have to improve a lot. So these are just the graphic, the tabular representation of these things, what they are, where in December 2024, and what it is now. Okay, and the percentage changes. So that just helps to monitor whether the economy is doing better or it's getting worse. Okay, so we have similar indices, okay, for the US economy. Okay, there's no need to go through each and every one of them, but you might want to just familiarize yourself with these things. Read them in the papers, listen to the news, Google it, get information about what's happening. Okay. This is also a tabular representation showing the position as of December 2024 and what it was as of April 30. Okay. Then the British economy as well. Captured inflation rates rose by a percentage, monetary policy rates, okay, went down. Okay. And the Financial Times Stock Exchange Index 100 index rose. Okay, so these are some of the things we can look at. The 100 most capitalized companies that are listed on the London Stock Exchange. Okay, that indicates the performance of the markets, of the economy, and by extension the economy. So if the index has gone up, okay, that means it's a positive thing. Okay, so we'll just go down. This is a brief on China, inflation rates, and up to the unemployment rates and things like that. So I'll just go to the summary. Okay, so what is the outlook for each of these economies? Okay, so for Nigeria, the broader macroeconomic picture will be fragile. That's because currency weakness, declining reserves, as we saw, okay, falling oil prices continue to pose significant risks to stability. And moving forward, structural reforms, diversification of revenue sources, and improved policy coordination will be crucial in navigating the paths to economic resilience. That's for Nigeria. Okay, for the United States, the continued impact of trade tariffs, particularly those implemented during the Trump administration, may remain a drag on key industries, contributing to investor caution and index underperformance. Then for England, the risks are rising. Okay, inflation has picked up, debt will continue to grow, and the labor market may continue to soften. Okay, so with both domestic resilience and international exposure in play, the economic outlook remains delicately balanced and dependent on swift, coordinated responses to evolving global developments. Okay, then for China, the revived US-China trade conflicts, as you can see, has affected the economy. It has it's challenging for trade, especially China's exports to the US. This will reduce foreign investment inflows to China and contribute to uncertainty in key export-oriented sectors. As policymakers weigh the risks of stimulus against financial imbalances, China's path forward will depend heavily on restoring domestic demand and navigating external tensions with strategic caution. Okay, so that said, the bottom line is we need to make maybe investments that are safer, be a little more cautious. And when we get to the types of investments and the investments that we will be making, especially for the financial markets, we will see how we can navigate these waters. Okay, so the section 3, building wealth. I believe this will be the most interesting aspects of the presentation, hopefully. Okay, so it's important for every prospecting investor to know and fully understand the investment vehicles, okay, that are available to him or her in the marketplace. So the formula for wealth creation is relatively simple. So for you to increase your wealth, you need to increase your wealth generating activities. And most of us start out trading our time for money, which is the normal thing to do. Okay, we get paid a monthly rate for doing a certain job. We get paid over a period. Okay, so but the problem with this is that in order to increase your income, you will usually need to increase the amount of hours that you give to your employer or to your clients. Okay, which in turn reduces the amount of time that you have to spend on yourself and your family and do the things that you enjoy. Okay, so to increase the quality of life, okay, to increase our quality of life, the only realistic strategy is to increase our income and reduce the number of hours that we work. So how can we do that? Okay, so the two approaches here are you can either trade your time for money or you can trade your money for more money. And that is what we're trying to look at here. Your money can work for you while you go to sleep. Okay, so you don't have to spend more time, okay, trying to get that money, hustling to get money. Nigeria, we call it hustling. Okay. Okay. So the information, of course, that we're going to be looking at down the line will help us to see the different investment outlets that we can use to maximize our returns on investment. So we get maximum returns for minimum efforts. Okay, so now number one, what are the sources of income? Okay, we've talked about working. So what kind of work is available? What are the different sources that things that we can engage in to give us income? So number one is paid employment. Okay. Self-employment. So you can have your own business. If you're in paid employment, that means you're working for someone, you're working for an organization, you're working for a company, or or something like that, and you're getting paid. Okay. Then self-employment, you can set up your own business. Okay, you can have your own business and earn income from the business that you're doing. Okay, then you have partnerships. You can collaborate with other people, other groups, another person to do business and earn income. Then, of course, you have your savings. That is a source of income. And then investments too is another source of income. So let's move on. So for of course, the engaging in employment, like we have your paid employment, that is already defined. But for self-employed people who want to engage in self-employment or have a side hustle of some sort, these are various small business ideas or options that we can look at. Okay. It's not exhaustive. I'm sure as technology improves, so many different things can come up. Okay. But this is just like a suggestion to fish farming, livestock. We are going to so a lot of these things will come in handy if you're looking at agriculture. Okay, trade, cassava, gari production. For those in Nigeria who understand what gari is, hairdressing, home services. But then for the internet age, technology age now. The middle column here, skills to render services to others, graphic designs, coding and programming, okay, web design, blogging, content creation, and the likes, okay, virtual assistants, data analysis and different things. You can write a book, you can do some editing, catering, photography. You can turn your hobby into a business. People who like to garden, horticulture, and things like that. So you like to teach, you can do private coaching. So these are just suggestions on what we can do. Okay. Then sources of capital for financing your business. Okay, so some of the probable finance sources for beginners in business include personal savings and investments. So you see, that's why savings and investments cannot be overemphasized. Okay, so savings that you made over a period of time, you can use that to invest in business. Okay, group savings, cooperative savings come in handy. Investment clubs in Nigeria, we call it a susu. Some people call it a jaw, where people contribute money, maybe on either weekly or monthly basis. A group of people come together and say, okay, fine, we contribute money. Someone takes, we contribute like 100,000 each, 10 people. Then that means at the end of the month, one person will take 1 million naira. The next month, it keeps rotating until everybody is able to get that capital. So a lot of people could start businesses with that kind of money without having to go to the bank to take loans. Okay. Then investments in money and capital markets. Okay. Those are sources of income. Then you have family sources. Your family members can spare cash, they can help to invest in your business and to encourage you. Then you have gratuity and pension benefits, okay, which comes in bulk, so you can invest those funds. Then incubators, angel investors, you have a lot of those, like you have organizations like the Tony Elumelu Foundation, I think Dangote Foundation, Bill Gates, I'm sure they do those things. I've seen, all over the world, there are such angel investors. Okay. Then you have partnerships. We've talked about that too as a source of income. You can have a partnership and you may have the skill, you may have the idea, you may have the concept, and then you can convince people to invest in that. And then you all enjoy the benefits or the returns from the business. Okay, then you have NGOs, okay, and development institutions like BOI, Bank of Agri, different organizations or non-governmental organizations that can provide grants or seed capital for people to invest in their businesses. Then you have, of course, banks and other financial institutions where you can take loans. Okay, some at low rates. You have microfinance banks, you have the regular commercial banks and things like that. Okay, so the next, so for career people, so part of how you can, get more money is to ensure that you increase your relevance, okay, in your career and retain, you understand, increase your income, okay, and remain relevant in your career. So these are some of the tips, okay, that we can employ. So you can acquire specialized skills, more certifications, in your field. Like doctors, I know at some point you become specialized in a particular field, you become a consultant. So you keep aspiring to go to the next level. Okay. For those of us in the investment banking, you could become a chartered stockbroker. You could, get higher qualifications, go back to school, try to get more certifications. Then diversification of skills. Perhaps you're in the finance sector, but you need to get some IT knowledge. So you could take courses in a different field that is, going to enhance your work. So you diversify your skills so that you can be more relevant, okay, and be able to take up more responsibilities, covering a wider area. Okay, then multitasking, being able to do different things. You're not just, focused on one line of activity. Okay, so like in a lot of institutions, like I can talk, I'm an investment banker. Usually when you start, in a normal investment banking institution that has stockbroking, asset management, financial advisory, they move you around. So you do some stints with the stockbroking, when you're still a rookie, okay? You work there, you move on to the asset management or fund management so that you can understand what they're doing, okay? And then you can, also work with the stockbroking team. So that way you're able to multitask. You can learn, different things, and then you can also handle those different areas. So I'm sure it also applies to other areas. Okay, so build your professional network, interact with your industry colleagues and people in other sectors as well. Mentorship and coaching. Ensure you get mentors, people that are already successful in the industry, get them to mentor you, and also work with people that you can also mentor. Okay, in the process of doing that, you can learn a lot as well. Okay, embrace change, be adaptable, learn to be flexible, adapt to change, and then stay informed, stay in the know what's happening in your industry, in your environment, be aware, okay? Take ownership of your career, okay? It's don't always make excuses, take ownership for your success and do what you need to do. Go the extra mile to exceed your expectations of your employer, okay? And in doing that, have like mentioned earlier, you could know eye service. Just make sure you have a knack for excellence, and then develop soft skills, communication skills, collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, and things like that. Okay, read relevant books that can help you develop those skills. There are some books which can teach you some Machiavellian skills. Like the 48 Laws of Power, The Art of Seduction, The Art of War. There are different books like that, motivational books. And for Christians, you can look at the motivational books by Miles Monroe, Mike Murdoch, John Maxwell. There's so many resources out there that can help to improve our career. Okay, so what are the types of investments? Okay, broadly, okay, you can invest in different sectors of the economy. Okay, but we'll be looking at some of these ones that are more relatable. Okay, you can invest in real estate, landed property. Just like the Proverbs 31 woman, she considers a field and buys it. So that is investment in real estate. What can you do with a field? What can you do with land? You can build on it. You can rent it out. You can use it for agriculture. There are so many things that you can do with property. So we should aspire to acquire property. If it's land, you can build the house, rent it out. You're generating income. If you have a roof over your head, your own house, then you don't need to pay rent. Okay, so that saves you money. So there are so many advantages of real estate. And the good thing about real estate is the fact that it appreciates over time. I'm not sure that, except if somebody wants to sell the distress sale, real estate keeps appreciating over time. It never really goes down. So it's one of the best, in fact, the best investment to make. Okay. So we should aspire to that. Even as women, we don't have to leave that to men. Okay. Then agriculture, very, very, very important. In fact, that's the mainstay. So you can do gardening or you can do it on a larger scale. Okay. Commercial agriculture, either fish farming, you can do, there are different aspects of agriculture. You have livestock, you have the land resources, then you have different forestry. So you can look at the areas that appeal to you, poultry, farming, things like that. And then you can invest money in that. People will always eat. Food is something that is a basic requirement of mankind. Food, shelter, clothing. Okay, so agriculture, either doing it on a large scale, partnering with people to get that done. Okay, so there are different ways that this can be done. You can invest even in organizations that engage in agriculture, okay, and then give you returns. So there are so many things that can be done in that area. And agriculture is the mainstay of most economies that are really serious. Okay. Nigeria was living on agriculture until we discovered oil. Okay. But I think we're, trying to get back to the basics. Okay, so then you have the financial markets. We'll be talking in detail about the various instruments here in the financial markets as we go down. So we have the money and capital markets, okay, for short and long-term investments. Then you have commodities, okay? Even though commodities, when you're trading it as on the exchange, could be a subset of the capital market, but looking at commodities on the, broad range, it could be anything that you can sell. It could be solid minerals, it could be grains, it could be just clothing, just engaging in trading, okay, buying and selling any products. Okay, so that's what I'm categorizing as commodities. So trading, you can in commodities can give you a lot of money, both in a structured exchange or in the normal markets. Then gold is, even though it's also like a commodity, okay, but it's in a class of its own. You can invest in gold, okay? Gold is like, holds value. A lot of countries put their reserves in gold, so these are things that we can engage in to give us income, okay? The type of investments that we can make that will help us to generate wealth, to create wealth. Okay, thank you. Then, so we're looking at the financial markets now, okay, because this is what maybe would be easy for us to look at. This is a more regulated sector, okay? Like for the money market, the banks are regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. It's easy, okay, to monitor what's happening there. There's a lot more information about this out there, okay? Then also the capital market is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. I think even in the United States, you have an SEC. In Nigeria, there is, and I think various climes, there's a body that regulates the capital markets. Okay. Then you have the money markets. Okay. It's for funds. It's the market for funds that are for less than a year. Okay. Or at least 1 year. At the most 1 year, okay, duration, and it's mostly fixed income securities or fixed deposits, fixed income securities. You can call them that, even though that term is usually used for bonds, okay, which is under the capital markets. So you have, we're going to be looking at 3 instruments here. We're going to be looking at the treasury bills, commercial papers, bank deposits, which comes in various types. Then you have capital markets, which is made for funds or investments for medium to long-term funds, okay, of over 1 year. You have to have a long-term horizon if you're making an investment in the capital markets. So the instruments are categorized into debts, equity, derivatives, and it offers the widest investment opportunities. Okay, so you have bonds, mutual funds, or collective investment schemes, stocks, derivatives. Okay, so we'll stick with this. Okay. So first of all, for the money markets, we're looking at treasury bills, okay? And you can find treasury bills in most countries would offer treasury bills. It's government securities. It's a government security, okay? They are usually issued for tenors of 91 days, 182 days, and 364 days in Nigeria. But I believe in other countries, there can be variations of that. Okay, like in the United Kingdom, I can see here you have 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months. So that's basically a little different from what we have. Okay, then you have treasury bills. They are ideal for investors having a large volume of investment funds. Okay, so if you're also considering the safety of your funds, this is a government security that's, except if the government goes bankrupt, okay, you're not likely to lose your funds. So it's one of the safest investments that you can make. Okay, you make those investments. In Nigeria, we make it through our central bank or through primary market dealers and that are licensed by the CBN. And you can make it investments through your bank, through your fund manager, through your investment advisor. Okay, those are licensed to get that done. Then treasury bills are highly secured, being liabilities of the federal government in Nigeria and in other countries. So they are very safe. They presently offer reasonable rates, as we can see down here. For United States, you can see those rates, you know, if you compare that to what the monetary policy rates are in those countries, you can see that they are reasonable rates. You can see the same thing. China, the equivalent of that is the 10-year government bond, which has a yield of 1.63. Then in Nigeria, you have rates of up to almost 20%, okay, investments. And so people can take advantage of this. You can go to your bank and then you can buy for, I think, the minimum may be 1 million or maybe even less, depending on the bank that you want to or the institution that you're making your investments in, because they will pull the funds together and bid, okay, with the CBN for the treasury bills. Okay, so commercial papers. Okay, these are just the equivalent of treasury bills, but they are they are not government instruments. They are private sector instruments that are similar to treasury bills. Okay, they are unsecured short-term loans issued by a corporation. The treasury bills are issued by the government. It's like the government borrowing money from you and paying you an interest rate. But in this case, an institution may want to raise funds. Okay, so they issue commercial papers. You subscribe to it, and at the end of the tenure, you get paid. You can also take an upfront, well, can be discounted, just like treasury bills. If you want to invest 100,000, okay, so the interest on that is let's assume 20,000 naira. Okay, I'm using naira here. Okay, so if the interest on that is 20,000, you pay 80,000. Okay, and at the end of the maturity, you get your 100,000. So they are discounted. So the same thing applies to commercial papers. Okay, and they are usually, like I said, issued at a discount, reflecting the prevailing market interest rates. But except if you want to capitalize your interest, so you could just, have that. That's like compound interest. Okay, maturities on commercial papers usually range between 180 to 270 days in Nigeria. Okay, so it could be a little different in other clients. Then there are, like I said, this is the private sector equivalent of the government securities that are called treasury bills. Okay, so for bank deposits, okay, a sum of money deposited in a bank standing to the credit of the customer, okay, in a bank ledger. Okay, so the bank deposits are the large part of the money supply. Okay, they come in different types depending on the restrictions and the withdrawal level restrictions. So and, most times you see an account, they say, okay, kiddies account, invest, you open an account, savings accounts, current accounts, high yield savings accounts. They could call it, give different times. If you withdraw more than twice, then you don't get the interest. They could be giving very high interest, but then you have a withdrawal limit, okay, that restricts so that you can earn that interest. And it comes in different varieties. Some are structured for children, for education, for projects that you're working towards and all that. So every bank just comes up with different products like that, structured around bank deposits, okay? But the thing that they all have in common is that there's a fixed interest rates that are accruable to those deposits, okay? And different bank and fund managers offer such deposit products, like even fund managers, okay? Like we at Capital Field, we have portfolio products that are approved by the SEC, okay, that are, similar to bank deposits where you place funds for a period of time for a given rate. Okay. All right. So, opportunities in the capital market. So now we'll start with bonds. Okay. So what are bonds? They are instruments that are issued by the government and or corporations. Okay. So it's not only the government that can issue bonds. You also have institutions, large corporations can issue bonds, okay, when they want to raise money, okay. So by buying a bond, you're giving the issuer a loan, and they agree to pay you back the face value of the loan, okay, on a specific date, and you pay periodically. So basically, if it's denominated in a different countries, a foreign currency is called euro bonds, and they're liquid, they're long term, they can be used as collateral, they are tax exempt in Nigeria, and they are safe and secure. So there are different bonds that you can subscribe to. Okay, so Grace, how much time do I have?
You have about like 15-20 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
let's take
So I'm
15
almost
minutes.
done. Okay. All right. So for collective investment schemes, these are basically known as mutual funds by most people, but then there are differences. Okay, there are different kinds of collective investment schemes, but they are mostly known as mutual funds. So we have unit trusts, which have open-ended and closed-ended funds. Okay. That have different asset classes. It could be you can have a money market fund, equity funds, fixed income fund, balance funds, as the case may be, depending on the asset class or the asset allocation for that fund. Okay. Then you have open-ended investment companies, structured as a company with publicly traded shares. Okay. Okay, just to give you an idea. Then venture capital funds. This provides funds for new businesses for long-term profits. Okay. Then you have real estate investment schemes. Okay. These are in mutual or funds. Yeah. Mutual funds that invest in profit-making real estate and related companies' properties, utilizing pooled funds. So there are different examples of that in the Nigerian capital markets. If we look at the SEC website, and I'm sure in different countries, these things are bound. Okay, so you also have specialized funds that invest in a particular sector. You have sector funds, exchange traded funds, and ethical and regional funds. Okay, then you have the ETFs. They are not they are collective investment schemes, okay, but they are not quite like mutual funds. It's a basket of securities that track the performance of an index or a commodity. Okay, they trade like shares on the exchange, and they derive their value from the index or the commodity that they track. Okay, so ETFs employ strategies that are consistent with mutual funds, but they are structured differently. Okay, so maybe when you're, a bit more investment savvy and you want to look into this kind of investments, it's good to seek the advice of a fund manager to give you that. So, but in Nigeria, the total assets under management for mutual funds is about 5.29 trillion as at the end of April 2025. Okay, so that's to show that it started at 150, about 150 million. Okay, now we have it in trillions. So that shows the investment awareness is growing and people are becoming more investment savvy. And because of the advantages that these mutual funds hold, you have a right of selection. You can start with small amounts. You can take advantage of the economics of scale. Because if you invest just 10,000 naira or 10,000 or $1 or $2, okay, you still get the same returns from that fund as somebody who has invested $1 million. Okay, so because they are pulled together and invested in various asset classes, unlike where you have fixed deposits. If you have lower amounts, you get lower rates, and you have higher amounts, you get higher rates depending on the tenor. Okay, simplicity, convenience. This is the kind of investment that you can do monthly and ask for monthly deductions to be made from your salary into this. Then you enjoy professional management, even with the small funds that you may have to invest. You enjoy compound interest. Good interest rates are accruable over a long period. So your interest or your dividends can be reinvested. Okay, instead of so you're also earning interest on the interest, which is compound interest. Okay, then specialization, tax benefits, okay, for limited liability companies in Nigeria. Let me be specific about that. Then, of course, there's liquidity because you can redeem anytime you want for open-ended funds. Okay, for closed-ended funds, they're listed on the exchange, so you will have to sell, on the exchange if you want to acquire or sell closed-ended funds. Okay, so the stock markets, you have, of course, equities, which we're all very familiar with. We have, when you say I have shares in a particular company, that means you're a part owner of that company. Okay, so you have preference shares, then you have equity holders, then you have normal, equity holders. Okay, that are part owners of the company. You are entitled to dividends and bonuses from the company once they are declared. Okay, and so if the company is doing well, you make money. But also the downside is that if there are also problems, and the company is not doing well, you also that affects your investment. So you have to use a good financial advisor or investment advisor for you to be able to invest properly in equities. And in capital field, we have a very good equities desk. We do excellent research in the markets and ensure that you can invest profitably in the capital market, in the equities market, in the stock exchange. Okay, so you have debts and loan stocks, which are written promises by the borrower to pay back the borrowed money on a stated future date while paying called interest on the borrowed amounts. Okay, so the holders of a loan stock have no right of ownership, unlike normal equity holders, okay, as long as the terms of the contract are fulfilled. Then you have derivatives. Derivatives are a whole lot, okay, but in Nigeria, we're still trying to, explore. I think we've started trading in derivatives a lot now, but what you might be more familiar with is rights trading, options, swaps, and things like that. But it's a little more technical, but we won't go into that right now. But it's just to let you know that these are options that you have, okay, for investments. Then some of the advantages of buying stocks or equities, okay. The fact that it makes up a company's assets, okay, it's the liquidity there. If you buy blue chip stocks that are tradable, easily tradable, okay, so you can easily convert it into cash. Unlike real estate, which is a very good investment, but you can't sell one room. Assuming I have a building and I need cash fast, I can't say, okay, let me sell just one portion of the house. Okay, you have to sell the whole property for you to get money, and it might take a while. But for stocks, if I have 1 million units of a particular stock, let's say Dangote cement, I can decide, okay, fine, I want to carry out a project and I'll sell just 100,000 units, and I'll get my money within 3-4 days, because the transaction cycle is T+3 in Nigeria. And I want to believe in other countries, they have similar transaction cycles. Okay, if you sell today, you get your funds paid, settled, and paid within a particular period. Okay, which should not exceed 3 days. Then you need expert analysis for this to ensure that you do not burn your fingers. Okay, and also it's a preferred collateral by a lot of banks because of the liquidity. It can be disposed of easily, especially if they are blue chip stocks or premium boards stocks. So some of the indices that you need to watch if you're investing in the stock markets, you have the earnings per share, price earning ratios, interest rates. Okay, this has an inverse correlation. I mentioned that earlier with the stock prices. As such, high rates suggest stock prices will lower. Okay, so when the stock market is going down, you can move out your funds, put them in the money markets, okay, and vice versa. So you also look at inflation rates, price charts, company, the management decisions that they are taking, what quality of people do they have on their board, and of course the track record of those companies. before you take a decision. But it's always good to get guidance from a good investment manager like Capital Field Asset Management. Okay, so having said that, okay, how do you begin investing? Conduct a cash flow analysis, okay? Your income, your taxes, your expenses. Set priorities, set your goals. Talk about setting goals. Save first, buy later. Then focus on the chosen approach and gain control. Okay. So you have to be determined. Start saving right now. Okay. Pool your funds together under a portfolio products or mutual funds managed by a good fund manager. And good fund managers, okay. Number one thing you have to look out for, they should be duly registered with the SEC. Okay, to avoid Ponzi schemes, you have to make sure that they are duly registered with either central bank or the Securities and Exchange Commission in any country, so that you don't fall prey to Ponzi schemes. Okay, then you have individuals with large funds can invest directly in bespoke standalone portfolios. Select a reputable and seasoned dealer in the stock or money markets for optimum investments. And Capital Field definitely is a leading player that you should consider. Thank you. So this is just a little bit about us. We're Capital Field Asset Management Limited. We're an investment banking firm duly registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria as a fund and portfolio manager. Okay, and we've been in existence as part of the asset management company we started in 2016, but we're part of the Capital Field Group, which was established in 2003. Okay, and has been doing very well in the market. There are 9 subsidiaries of the Capital Field Group, as you can see from here. We have a microfinance bank, financial management company, bureau de change. There's also oil and gas, and several other subsidiaries into shipping, into agriculture, and the like. So we can help you out with anything that you may be interested in investing in, okay, across the value chain. So these are our contact details. Because I have my colleague, Frederick Ajayi, the head of business development and wealth management. Then we have Ayodele Aledari, who's the head investment and research. And you may contact us anytime you wish so that we can assist with your investment needs. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think we should unmute. Let's unmute, because I was also writing things. I'm sure we all do. Let's just unmute and really thank.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow,
thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and well done.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am. That was
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe if you have questions for me.
Yeah. If we have any questions at all about anything, because I know this covered a lot. It covered a whole lot. And this is really an opportunity to ask questions, right? To, all those questions you've had in the past, or even questions that came up even from this particular session. I would like us to just, if you have questions, you can just raise up your virtual hand. You can raise up your virtual hand. You can put them in the chat box. If you want to be anonymous, you can send the questions directly to me, or you can send the questions directly to our speaker. So whichever one. But if you have questions, it'd be lovely to hear your voice also, right? So yeah, you can just unmute or raise up your hand so it's a bit organized. So let's know that. But as we're waiting for people to ask the questions, I have one question here. You talked about agriculture, and I think that's so. Many people don't think about investing in agriculture, right? Or thinking about agriculture in that sense. So what examples are there? So is it pretty much like having a farm, or having, working with a group of people, like partnership where you have a farm? Or maybe how do you think about agriculture, and how can you start in agriculture? So that's my own question. But like I said, if people have the questions, please let's raise up our virtual hands. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Well, depending on how you want to approach it. Okay. So you can do small scale farming, as in you can just have a garden in your backyard that provides food for you, vegetables that you need to cook with. Okay, so that saves you money. That's like in personal finance, okay? But then you can take it up a notch, you know, and if you have land, okay, that can be worked, okay, and you know, to plant, you know, people do a lot of cassava, you know, to produce staple foods for economic purposes, okay? These things can be processed and sold, okay? Like people in the villages, that is their main, you know, people who may not even have jobs, but they do that, they have lands, they work on these lands, and they depend on this for their economic benefits, okay? But then on a larger scale, if you want to do that as an investor, okay, you can do, you know, like some kind of mechanized farming for agriculture, that's for root crops, okay? And then you also look at, like I talked about, livestock, you can do poultry farming, okay? But you may need to assess the scale that you want to invest and then maybe get funding for it, okay? And partnerships as well. Get the right kind of people so that you don't lose your funds. Thank you. I don't know if you have any comments. You may, the contributions are welcome. Maybe
Okay.
somebody has some insights they can share. So please, that would be nice. Okay.
So open up. Yeah. Open it up to everyone. If you have contributions or if you have questions or if you have anything you'd like to share. Dami, I see that you're clicking something, so. Okay. Do we have any questions? Do we have any contributions? I think another question that
Okay.
might be relevant to a couple of us, or let's say, you know, let's say we're in Nigeria and we want to think about investing in other countries, right? Or
Yeah.
when, let's say, another country and we want to invest somewhere, how do we go about that? Because I think it's easy to do that within our country, but if you're thinking about doing that in another country, how easy is that? And what are some of the things we need to think about, you know, before we venture into that?
Okay. If you want to invest in another country,
Yeah, so let's say I'm in Nigeria and I want to invest in, you know, China, for instance. Yeah,
okay.
how do we go about that? And what are some things to consider before we venture into such things?
Okay. So for cross-border investments, okay, the rules may be a little different from what you have in your country. Okay. So you will need to engage the services of an investment advisor in the country that you want to invest in, or an investment advisor in Nigeria that has access to those investments, okay, those kind of investments that you want to make. Assuming you want to invest in stocks or other kind of investments, then my advice would always be to work with the right investment advisor, okay? So they will give guidelines, okay? So I can talk about people investing from outside Nigeria, okay, who want to invest in the stock market in Nigeria, for instance, okay? So you will have to provide KYC documents, okay, that are notarized in your country of residence, okay? And then your investment advisor here in Nigeria, okay, will process those documentation and ensure that okay, your investments are properly done. And then, of course, you get a certificate of capital importation, okay, so that when your investments, you want to take out your investments, it can also be paid out to you at the central bank rate. So some rules and regulations apply. So it depends on the jurisdiction, okay? You have to understand what their rules are and work with an investment advisor that has information about those the regulation in those countries. I don't know if that answers your question up to an extent, right? Okay.
Yes, yes, it
All
does.
right.
Yes, it does. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. So it's
Okay.
open, 30 more seconds. Do we have any questions at all that we would like to ask? This is
Okay.
a very good opportunity to ask.
Okay. Well, even though
Okay.
I can say I saw my baby sister in the crowd.
Oh, what's the name?
Neso Chiawujo.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hi. Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in. Okay, so
Thank you.
please,
That was
question.
really insightful. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
So I see Kemi raised up a hand. Kemi, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm not going to ask any question, but I want to say I don't just want to put it in the comment section that was insightful. But I just want to say you have really given us a lot, as in to cover any level we are, whatever level we are. Like I am a missionary with Calvary Ministries, CAPRO, and I've been able to gain a lot from all you have shared with us. Though I'm a missionary, but I'm doing, one thing or the other just to make income, not even one thing. I have, like few things. I'm making this, I'm making bottled tomato, I'm doing this. I even saw you wrote something like liquid soap. I say haba. Even to this point, I do that. So, but to a large extent, I have learned as in how to manage my income, because I realize, okay, you have a lot to spend on, a lot to do this, a lot. But even within that, I should be able to save. I've gained a lot, and I'm just trusting God that I will be able to, use to the maximum all these informations. Thank you very much. God bless
Thank you. Thank you. That's good to know. Thanks. Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have
Okay.
any one last person before we end? If not, thank you so much, Ma. I mean, this has been very insightful, just like what Kemi said. It's been detailed. I mean, really detailed, going into different aspects and different markets. I was like, China.
Okay.
I never thought about China. But it's been really insightful. It's been really insightful. And I mean, it's something that I would definitely also even think about and, go back to and say, okay, you know what can I do? What can I do better? What do I need to stop? And even at the beginning where you talked about financial discipline, there's some things we all need to think about, right? You said looking at our finances every day, right? Many times we don't do that. It's maybe towards the end of the year that people just say, okay, oh, damn it, you're shaking your head.
Yes, because I always did it.
Because I always
You always
did
do
it.
that.
And, when I say something in the office, everybody just laugh and they're like, that me, you're too jebu, that me, you're too this, that me, you're too that. I'm like, like, you see that you don't do it or what? So it's not a question per se, but just, let us know so that everybody just know that, okay, no matter how you are doing these things and people are just, coming after you or saying one or two, you're just making jest about it. Like, it's totally fine. It's not as if you are just trying to, it's totally fine. So that's what I just want to say. That's why I was shaking my head. I always did it before, but I stopped, I mean, I stopped. I found it weird. Like, I'm the only one doing this kind of things. People say, before you talk, and that don't calculate a December salary. And I'll just be laughing. Like, hey.
Okay. So I'm glad that you found it insightful. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. We
Okay.
appreciate you. We love you, and we'd like to release you definitely. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Ma.
I'm
You've already your
grateful.
contact information, so I would also share it with the attendees. Yeah.
Okay.
So, they
Okay.
can reach out to, the company, to your colleagues. And of course, if we have follow-up questions, we can always, send an email and, find out more. And of course, if we're now thinking further towards, investing and towards actually working with Capital Field, we can also, connect with them and follow up with that too. So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right
Thank
then.
you.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, so of course we'll be having our next BFM chat sometimes this year. But we'll reach out to people on that, the date, and also on the topic And of course, if you also want to join the BFM community, I think some people, when they filled it, they said yes. So of course, we'll reach out to you also and follow up with next steps towards that. But if there are no questions, if nothing else to be said, have a beautiful evening and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.